All right, I'm going to call to order. It's the Impact Fee Review Board, May 4th, 2026, 6:30 PM. Start with roll call.
Yes. Ms. Bradford?
Here.
Ms. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Schulhoff?
Here.
We do have quorum.
And that says elections and appointments.
Yes, so you need to open the floor to elect president of the Impact Fee Review Board.
So moved. Do I need to?
You just need to open the floor and
I'll open the floor to elections and appointments for president, vice president.
I nominate Chris to continue as president.
I second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I nominate somebody to be.
Yeah, who would like to be vice president?
I'll nominate him to be vice president.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So Kim is vice president. Appointments.
yeah, I just asked that you appoint board secretaries Ross Hiller and Christy Cashin, and then recording secretaries Kay Prang and Kelly Lewark.
So appoint the board secretaries Ross, Hillary, Christy Cashin, and recording secretaries Kay Prang, Kelly Lewark. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next is your previous meeting minutes from 2024.
Move to approve them. Meeting minutes from April 25th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Your first item is the Lantern Road Boutique Restaurant. Address is 11466 Lantern Road. I will have a short presentation and then I'll hand it over to our petitioner, Andy Wojak. Andy, I'm able to bring up any of the documents that you provided on the screen,
So that's fine.
whatever you'd like. So this is case 126479 in our Open Cup system, again, 11466 Lantern Road. The property is located at 11466 Lantern Road, which is south of South Street and north of Fishers Elementary School. Here is a map of that property. The property is zoned VC Village Center, which is part of our Nickel Plate District Code. And it allows for single family as well as mixed use, which is the item we're talking about tonight. I'm going to share some graphics that were provided throughout this development process with notions on where they were from. So this is the rendering that was provided. This is a landscape plan that is part of the improvement location permit. I'll discuss why this is pertinent. Here you can see the building footprint, the rear parking, the drive aisle, the curb cut, the planting strip, and the sidewalk that is all located along Lantern Road. Again, that building footprint is on the bottom portion with the parking lot behind and the drive to the north. Again, as mentioned, this is part of our Nickel Plate district, so it is required to go before a Nickel Plate Review Committee. This was approved in May of 2024. Here is elevations that the petitioner provided. The west elevation is the one that would face Lantern Road. Again, provided as part of that Nickel Plate Review Committee, just for context for you guys, here is a rendering of that development. They received their improvement location permit in April of 2025, and the commercial building permit was released in November of 2025. General context of what you guys are, what you oversee is our road, bridge, and sewer impacts. And so the road impacts were established most recently in 2021 at $399.42 per trip. Bridge impact fees also ordinance from 2021 at $16.19 per trip. And then the sewer use schedule is located there. This is part of District 1, which is formerly known as the Fisher Sewer District. Ordinance was also from 2021, which assesses these three: the application fee, availability charge, and connection charge. Included in your packet by the petitioner as well as by staff, the road and bridge that was assessed on this property is for a proposed cafe at 2,100 square feet, which received a 99 24-hour trips that is provided by ANF Engineering, our traffic consultant. On this property was a single-family home before, so a credit was provided of 10 trips, that is standard, which allowed for 89 impact fee or 89 hours that was applied to this property. EDUs, which is the measurement of discharge that is required for sewer. This was assessed at 0.5 EDUs on the property. That generated a road impact fee of $35,548.38 for the road, $1,440.91 for bridge impact fees, and then sewer impact fee was $1,375. This is development costs that I went through in response to Andy's packet that I'm sure he'll go over. So a couple of different things that are required for all developments. I'll go over our storm, right-of-way dedication, sanitary, the fats, oils, and greases, and performance bonds, which was provided by the petitioner. So one of those is the requirement for the development to have a storm outlet. We are responsible for all the water that collects on our property and must be discharged correctly. So city ordinance and policy is to avoid open cutting in the road and to keep storm drains out of the right-of-way. And because of that requirement, the developer was required to seek an off-site easement established with the property to the north and record that with the county. All projects throughout the city, we do look at right-of-way dedication based on our thoroughfare plan. If we are subdividing, we have an ability to require that right-of-way to be dedicated. This lot was existing as a previous home was on it, so it did not require right-of-way dedication, but was requested. Per the Nickel Bay District Code, we do require sidewalks and planting strips to be installed. So the outcome of this was at the cost of the developer. They are installing a sidewalk and planting strip, and they established that in an easement versus a right-of-way dedication. So there was no taking of the property, but there is an easement that is placed on the property to allow pedestrians to cross the property. Sanitary requirements, the developer must connect to the sanitary system based off our UDO. The existing home had a lateral that was capped at demo. And so the outcome of that is the cost the developer is allowed to connect to that existing lateral based off of the sewer impacts that were estimated. Fat, oils, and greases, or FOG, which is a very fun acronym. Developers, this is a mixed-use small deli, as mentioned, specialty shop with a second floor apartment. With that, we are anticipating that this is a food service facility. And so they are responsible to collect all of the fats, oils, and greases. So as part of that, the cost of developer is a grease interceptor. And lastly, performance bonds. Based off of that storm outlet, performance bonds are required for excavation work per city code. So at the cost of developer, performance bond is on file until that work is completed. With that, staff does believe that these fees were assessed accordingly with all the guidelines of the code and the Unified Development Ordinance. And I'm happy to answer questions after Mr. Wojak provides his feedback.
Sure. So, I mean, one thing I want to point out right off the bat was that I was told that both dedications were required to receive my permit for the property. So that's one thing off the bat that's a little, I just noticed, I want to address from the presentation is that I was told that I had to give the sidewalk in order to get the permit for my property. It wasn't ever at any point in time presented to me as a conditional obligation. So right off the bat, that's not what happened. So
I can kind of course correct. Right-of-way dedication versus an easement. So a dedication of the property is essentially also known as a taking. So that property no longer owns to that developer, it becomes public right-of-way. In this instance, we only requested that the right-of-way be dedicated. It was not So we had an easement in place. So that land still belongs to the property owner, but that easement allows for people to cross that from a pedestrian safety standpoint. We want that in case someone was to be injured or hurt on that property, that it would fall to the city's responsibility as that is that public sidewalk. So sorry if I misspoke.
Sure. So, first off, I guess I'll just start off with like, thanks for meeting with me tonight, guys. I appreciate it. I know it's been, 2 years, or almost 2 years since one of these meetings has happened. So it's really nice to be able to get in here and talk. I have a, somewhat of a presentation that I prepared that I've also written down everything that I'm going to say so that you guys can, I know that you have 30 days, I think, after this to make the determination. So something that you can take with you and remember what I was talking about if it's at all pertinent to you or something you wanted to remember. So forgive me while I read from that, but I just want to make sure that everything's consistent along the way as we go along here. So I'm asking for a review of the impact fee and how it applies to, and adjustments, how they apply to my particular parcel. I'm not asking for an adjustment of what has been assessed to me here. I'm asking for credits. In the impact fee ordinance, both for Fishers, the state, and I mean, really the state is the strongest portion for me, but goes all the way back to the Constitution for 3 separate cases here, going over exactly what I had to give up to the city in order to get this project approved. So I understand that, in the code that there's some uniform baseline requirements and different things that are required when it comes to the credit statute, but where the city required permanent easements, public frontage improvements, off property drainage rights, infrastructure with future system use, all of those items should be identified, valued, and considered before the final fee is actually assessed on me. I'm asking that these public contributions be separated from the ordinary site compliance. Mainly what I'm referring to there is the detention stuff. Like, I'm not arguing against having to put detention on my property or complaining about that or anything like that. I understand the need. So really, I think that the public level improvements that I've provided kind of fall into 2 different buckets. One is the sidewalk. The second is, as Ross mentioned, the offsite stormwater easement. So I'll go into those real quick. So starting with the sidewalk, like the sidewalk wasn't required because I'm building something new and I'm gonna be bringing customers to my property. The sidewalk and the way that it was organized in the planning process is part of like a city plan public development scheme that they're trying to institute for Lantern Road. So when I purchased the property, it originally had a 10-foot roadway easement. Now it's 15 after the 5 that I gave up to the city. It's in the documents. The planned 15-foot right-of-way that I actually gave to the city is also consistent with the nickel plate code. The organization isn't exactly what it was for a type J street in the nickel plate code, but within the nickel plate code and even referenced in some of the emails from planning, it's the 15-foot arrangement is mentioned. So originally when this project started, I believe that from Laura McClure in engineering, the plans showed a 5-foot biking path, 6-foot grass strip, and 6-foot sidewalk leading up to the front of my property. And then at some point in time when I was confirming that for my civil engineer when he was drawing the property, I re-asked Ross, in which Ross told me that now that orientation had changed because the school down the street was doing something different, and what they wanted me to do was match that scheme going through the neighborhood of the school, the same frontage that the school already had. So that frontage is 2 feet for a future curb. The curb that they want me to put in there, they don't really know what it is yet. So that part of the give hasn't been finalized yet. And then there's a 4-foot planting area and then a 9-foot sidewalk. And the 9-foot sidewalk from we had a meeting, about the ILP, and in that meeting, there was a comment that, this extra sidewalk width, despite it not being matched anywhere in the neighborhood, is because they want to provide some extra room for the kids when they're going down the sidewalk to school. So that's just a comment. Don't know if that's really why, it's done. It's just anecdotal from the meetings and stuff like that. So, when it comes to the sidewalk, there's two different aspects there because I had to give up 330 square feet, 5 feet of frontage. This building right here, I'm fighting for every square foot that I can get in order to make use of my business. So 330 square feet is about 1/3 of the public area that I currently have for my customers and stuff like that. So, man, it sure would be nice to have that, to be able to get some more people into the business. But according to what I was told, I had to give that up in order to get the plan approved. So that's the route I took with my engineers. It's the route that I took with my architects and stuff like that. And that's how we've designed the building up to this point. So, the fact is that it's important because it shows that it's not just an isolated private site access, the organization that's going into the front of my house. It's tied to a broader corridor or public improvement plan for the area. So the second part is storm, and while I recognize that we're talking about a road and bridge impact fee here, the impact fee statutes, both for Indiana and Fishers, don't say that specifically that the improvements have to fall into a specific road or bridge improvement. They can be related to the overall infrastructure improvement for the area and stuff like that. And that's essentially what happened here with the easement is that, as Ross was mentioning, I provided to the city a couple of pathways. What's not mentioned is, if you can pull up, Ross, the easement for the drainage. We provided the city with a path that would avoid going into the street and would still minimize. This is it right here. Eventually this was denied. And essentially, if you don't mind me standing up here, guys, where we were required to go is right through the middle of it. So this pathway was denied. I was trying to here basically reduce the taking to my neighbor because he was going to lose. Once that pipe comes out, nothing can happen over it. I mean, basically you're maintaining grass or a sidewalk or anything like that. So even if my neighbor were to want to abide to the new code and stuff like that, pull his property close to the frontage, he'd still have this dead space up in front where he can't really touch it. And the way that the easement is kind of set up is that the bottom 5 feet of that easement going all the way over to the end is land that eventually will be taken by the city of Fishers. As you guys can see on my plans, I'm kind of building a sidewalk. It's kind of nowhere. It's just going to be on my property. I have to build 2 stubs that go to the neighboring side properties, which also to me kind of indicates that this is a wider corridor plan, not just something that I have to do for my property. But, had the city just, and I had talked with my neighbor about this, had the city just kind of like taken that bottom portion of the plan, we actually probably would have been able to kind of maneuver a little bit better. But it's not something that the city wanted to do at that point in time. It's not something I'm going to argue against. I'm just saying that it could have been done a little bit more efficiently in that area with some cooperation. So I think that the one thing that to me that really sticks out to say that this is a public benefit with the easement, if you go up to the first paragraph of the ordinance, Ross. Yep. And you'll right underneath where it says Fishers, Hamilton County, Indiana grantee. Permanent easements upon the real estate to place, construct, operate, control, maintain, reconstruct, relocate, change the size of, repair, and remove lines and conduits necessary or incidental or to providing drainage or utility services. Collectively, the utility facilities. So, to me, that's really broad language from a legal aspect. It doesn't just limit it to my pipe. So, I mean, I'm buying an easement from my neighbor, which I never received. I just facilitated the transaction and gave money. So this right here is just, it reads way too broad for it to lock it into just my pipe. Now, Russ, if you could go to the last, it's the second page of this. To the top. That would be the second page of the easement. Further up, not the exhibit, just the second page of the easement. Right there. So, on the second page, we'll look closer here to the end of this paragraph, and what further cements this thought in my mind that this is not just for my drain pipe is that it explicitly says that for the purpose of connecting such additional extensions and facilities to the utility facilities, which to me says, hey, and the stuff that I put in the ground there are, I think you call them 2x2 or 4x4 manholes. They're the big manholes with four sides on them that can accept a pipe. So basically everything, according to the language of this easement and stuff like that, everything within the easement becomes the city of Fishers owned by the city of Fishers. It's unclear to me whether my private system utility pipes stay my own once they reach that easement, or once they're in there, if they're the city of Fishers too, and that's where my system ends. But either way, the city of Fishers retains the ability to kind of do whatever they want when it comes to utilities with that easement beyond me just providing, my neighbor, the city, an easement in order to put a drainage pipe through there. So, when you look at these things, like, I think that, especially that pipe and the way that the way that the right-of-way improvements were constructed, they're constructed just in the similar way that a city would do it, right away in front of the house. There's one property to the south of me that hasn't been developed yet. And we've got, my pipe is throttled to, or my detention system's throttled to 0.3 cubic feet per second for the 2-year storm, and then 0.7 for the 100-year storm. So, I mean, a 12-inch pipe, it's clearly oversized, but I understand that the stormwater technical standards menu and stuff like that has minimum sizes. But I'm just saying that, when it comes to assessing my impact, I'm not using that whole pipe, and that pipe is there available, and it's been dedicated to the city of Fishers, the portion of the easement that connects to the drain, that it can be used by somebody else at some other point in time. So it's clearly not just for me. It's for some other people too. So, or anybody that might need it in the future. So that's really the gist of what I'm saying. I don't want to get too deep into anything else. I think that I kind of laid it out at the beginning, but like, the legal framework for the impact fee statutes kind of say that, if something is ordinary and a normal part of development, that, that is kind of one of the gatekeepers to an impact fee credit. It doesn't say that it stops it, and it doesn't say that the analysis stops there. Everything kind of has to be taken into effect before it's just a hard no. So that's what I gotta say.
Any follow-up? Sir?
These are questions from you guys.
I don't have anything else to provide. Happy to answer any questions, just like Mr. Wojcik.
I do have a question, I guess it's a matter of process, if you don't mind. So this board is looks at the factual assumptions of the calculation of fee based on like the IT trip generation manual. And if we find any error in that, we can ask for it to be, I guess, recalculated or relooked at. Is what I'm asking for a confirmation. And also if there's an impact fee that's been, that exceeds the limits permitted under Indiana law, or what I guess this board is here to determine based on the presentation. I'd like to have a little bit more understanding on what a credit process would be. Like, because this isn't like, this isn't the credit process board. I guess, is there a different process to request credits towards the permit, or I'm not as familiar with the building permit side, so I'm just wondering for my own knowledge of how a credit request would happen.
Sure. So two things. Yes, this board is challenged with reviewing road and bridge and sewer impacts to make sure they were calculated correctly. And if they were not, request staff to have those calculated correctly based on your knowledge and your background. Example here you can see on where credit was given was with A&F Engineering, who provided an assumption on the road and bridge of the previous use. So my understanding from a credit standpoint, and Lindsay, if you have anything else to direct, you could, as a group, direct staff to review that and find out what that credit would look like and then come back to you. But
Yeah, that is one of the board's powers, is you can reverse, affirm, modify, or otherwise establish the amount of an impact fee, a credit, a refund, or any combination of fees, credits, or refunds, based on what you've seen
The
today.
credit I'm asking about is not the credit for the trips. I'm familiar with that. It's the
Right.
credit for, I guess, what he's asking
Yeah.
for, which is the money he's put in to offset the money he's being asked to pay, right?
I was saying that was
That's essentially what I'm saying here is that I provided well over $50,000 of input, and I'm not saying that I don't benefit from all of that at all. But I'm saying that there's a good portion of that it goes directly to the city. I don't have any sort of ownership Ross briefly mentioned, Ross and I went through an email here where I tried to get the city to lay down, is this a taking or is it a dedication? And Ross came back and told me this is a dedication. So really, like, the big thing, and Lindsay can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the big thing when it comes to constitutional law is my ability to exclude people from that piece of property. So once I've dedicated that sidewalk easement, I can't tell, let's take today's climate, huge protest or something like that going on Lantern Road, protesting, let's say all the chain restaurants in town. I'll just use an example I like. I can't tell those people, hey, this is my property, you got to move off of it. You know what I mean? Even though I've given the easement, that it's not an opportunity for me to do that. And I think that in the law, it's probably viewed as one of the more stronger points to that. So.
It was an either or, I guess, option to dedicate the right of way or provide an easement.
That is city policy, correct? Yeah. So if the lot doesn't exist or we're changing the lot through our plating process, we have the ability to require the right of way to be dedicated. In this instance, the lot existed, there was a home on it, so all we can do is request right of way to be dedicated. If we don't have right of way dedicated, then our procedure and policy is to establish a pedestrian access easement because a sidewalk is required to be installed on the property.
So for the building permit, for everything we've talked about, the sidewalk was required. It's a matter of if it was if there was an easement or dedicated, and this was an easement.
Yes, the improvement location permit, which is what allows for site improvements to work, required the dedication.
I think that a big differentiation there is that a sidewalk was required, right? A 9-foot sidewalk? I mean, there isn't a 9-foot sidewalk in that neighborhood that I'm living in right now. Like the school hasn't poured their sidewalk yet, so their sidewalk supposedly will be 9 feet. The homes that are, Ross, are you able to pull up the map again real quick? So, I mean, you can't really see it right here, but this home has a different setback and frontage than, you know, these properties down here. These guys over here have, you know, 100% lot coverage, but something was worked out where they got drainage from some other provider. The difference in what's required for each different lot isn't uniform, in which that is kind of, you know, the gateway for a city to be able to say this doesn't qualify for an impact fee, and from what I understand, so.
Ross, are these all part, so is this part of like the nickel plate code itself or for like the setback on the sidewalks? Is that
Yes.
all that's part of the nickel plate code?
Yeah, so
That
from a,
square area though is different than across Lantern, correct?
sorry, what square?
As far as classification within Fishers?
They're all
They're all
VC
VC.
Village Center, which allows for,
This is and this is?
yes, all of it's the same zoning.
Are all of these incorporated in the city now?
Yes.
Okay, they're not, none of them are.
They all fall within the Fishers Sewer District, which was one of our talking points.
So
And I'm
the
not-
easement width, is that something that you would require of every property in that same zoning?
Yes, what is unique about all of these area, right? This area is we're dealing with infill and existing structures. So for example, the structure, the development to the north was an existing home that's been converted into a residential or into a business. The property to the south was a residential property that was demoed with anticipation that it's going to redevelop. And then Mr. Wojak's property was an existing single-family home, which has been removed in anticipation of this development. So the idea that some things are applied to some people and not others is, I believe, incorrect. But what I am dealing with is different developments from different eras and different times. So the school's documentation is on file. I'm happy to provide that, which shows the right-of-way improvements that they are doing as well. I'll say the school did not dedicate right-of-way either. And so they also established the pedestrian access easement. And so for continuity and consistency, we would, as a city, like for that sidewalk to be the same. So if the property to the south was developed, we would ask the same of that.
So is there anything above and beyond your development standards that you're requiring of this property?
Not to my recollection, but that may be different than Mr. Wojak's.
So the above and beyond the development standards, in my opinion, is that the sidewalk is, so there's an existing sidewalk and planting area or whatever you want to call it. There's an existing right of way in order to comply with what the city requires from the city or from me as a developer, right? And I can put in the 6-foot sidewalk. Really, with the way that the city wants it organized, the easement that I give, all 5 feet of the easement that I give is sidewalk because it goes up against the building. So I'm not, and I've said this to the city from the beginning, is that I'm not trying to be a stick in the mud here. I'm trying to push forward whatever vision that they have for this neighborhood. I've sent emails to Lindsay and Ross that they can attest to where I've pushed them to push harder on non-conforming properties within the neighborhood because I want everybody's property values to go up with mine. I don't feel like I'm trying to be the mandator, but I'll take exception to one thing Ross said. I didn't say that anything is being forced or pushed on people for different property requirements. I'm just saying that there's a general inconsistency in this neighborhood in terms of what's required of developers when they come to develop in this neighborhood, and it's part of what prevents people from wanting to do new developments in this neighborhood. So, you know, when across the street, they have to give up 25 feet, my side of the street, it's 15. I want it to be clear that I'm not out here, you know, fighting for myself. I'm fighting for consistency and continuity in the way that the neighborhood would be developed, so.
I don't know, because I've not seen the zone improvement plan are any of these improvements included in the zone improvement plan that he would have paid towards with his impact fees? So do you see what I'm saying? Like, is there something that was in the zone improvement plan? And that's how the fee was calculated.
Based
Do
off
any of
the
those
road, bridge and
improvements?
sewer
Right.
with
Well,
those
not
fees.
sewer, because those are not included here. He just asked for road and bridge, but, you know, like typically if there's a roundabout, then that, any improvement,
So I-
any land dedicated for that roundabout would have already been paid for under the impact fee. Here is the right of way included in the zone improvement plan. Is anything that he's dedicated included in the zone improvement
I
plan?
don't believe so.
And so
So
that
he's not
is-
paying twice for this.
That is part of my argument here is that because it's not in the zone improvement plan now, doesn't mean that it's not gonna be a part of it later. So I'm being asked to match exactly what's being done down the street with the school. And the Indiana code does, whoever wrote the lawyers that wrote the Indiana impact fee credit section for the Indiana code had to throw that thing in a freaking blender because it reads so
Very
horribly.
confusing.
But essentially what Lindsay is getting to here is that when something's in the zone improvement plan, it makes it more likely and places a higher burden on this. I don't want to say burden. That's probably the wrong wording here. It makes it more convincing that it should be for a credit because it's doing exactly what Lindsay is describing here, where if something is in the zone improvement plan, essentially, you guys can correct me here if I'm wrong, you're starting to allocate funding for it or you have allocated funding for it.
Well, yes, I mean, that is the point of the impact fee is to fund those improvements that are in that zone improvement plan. So
So I'm just
the
trying to,
credit is so that you don't pay twice towards the same improvement. If
exactly.
it's not in the improvement plan, then you don't get a credit because you're not paying twice for it.
So, and that's where I'm saying that that's not explicit in the code, that I don't receive a credit. It definitely does not say that. And it pushes more towards, that the whole thing, all of the public improvements that are contributed, even if they aren't in there, should be considered, as part of the credit scheme.
Well, if you take that line of reasoning, then any improvement that a developer would dedicate would be subject to a credit, and that's not the case.
So the
Developers are
Fishers,
subject to these requirements all the time. Every time they bring in a development, they are required to dedicate certain property, to make sure that they have stormwater, to make sure they have sewer. That's just part of developing a piece of property. Now, if, we require something over and above that, then we're starting to talk about credits. But here,
and that's exactly what I'm talking about.
hearing that the city's required anything over and above what's in the code, what's in policy,
So Ross,
and it's not included in the zone.
what does the code say about the sidewalk that goes in front of my house?
So streetscape neighborhood alternative 5 is the streetscape that we're using.
But in the code, what does it say that the original streetscape was to be used for my property, right? There's something different that, it was in an email from Laura that said that my streetscape was type J. I had a bike path, a 6-foot planting strip, and a 6-foot sidewalk in front of my property. At some point in time later, you sent me an email
Yeah.
that said, it is no longer gonna be a type J, it's gonna be a 9-foot sidewalk. So what I'm going for here, Lindsay, is I'm saying that the original 12 feet or so that was going to be used, 5 feet of it now is more sidewalk.
So the Nickel Plate District Code, engineering usually defers to planning because we house the Nickel Plate District Code. So I can't speak to what Laura provided with Street J. Because of that inconsistency across our entire Nickel Plate District, staff instituted these 5 streetscapes And neighborhood alternative is our cheapest one, which shows a 15-foot wide right-of-way, which is a 9-foot sidewalk. And then 4 to 6 feet is used for the planting strip. So this is what we required of the school. So Mr. Wojak is not doing his sidewalk because the school is doing it. The school was required to do this streetscape, which is consistent with what we're asking Mr. Wojak. So I can't speak to what.
And that's what I'm saying, actually the opposite of what Ross is saying right there, is that I'm saying that it's not that I have to do this because the school is doing it. I have to do it because it's part of a larger neighborhood scheme in order to fit this plan. So it's like the school happened to be the one to do it first, and the city then said, hey, we're changing, this plan from J or whatever it was to these 5 alternatives. And then this changed the orientation in front of the building. So, it is different going back to, what I was shown in the code when I was buying this property, getting ready to develop it. And even after the impact meeting, the email came in about this one, this only came up later, so.
Just out of curiosity, what's the defining code? Like, what defines, is it when you get your ILP? Like, or is that what you are subject when you get your ILP at the code at that time? Or like, because some of these developments, I guess, take some years to get there.
Sure.
So,
When they submit the application
Okay.
on OpenGov is typically when we do that. If we are aware of a code that's coming update, we would provide that information. Typically, those take a long time to go through the process, so
Yeah.
they don't come out of nowhere.
Okay, yeah, that was my question. It's the date you kind of started that.
So the application was submitted when that was available, or the application was submitted and then that was,
This was decided after my application was submitted. So when my application was submitted, I was given an email from engineering that said one thing, and then this came later, at a later date. And I
What
can
was
get-
what was the one thing?
What's that?
I thought it had, yeah,
Oh,
I'm sorry?
the original?
the original had a bike path and,
Yeah, I'm not saying that it, I'm saying that I think that we're getting a little confused here by, going back to what Ross was saying and what Lindsay were talking about, where, am I being required to give more than what was, in the plan, right?
So originally you applied, it was maybe to say something, and then after the application date, this was established. So a credit could, I guess, could be, I'm just talking out loud, between the two differences of those, a credit could be what you're requesting.
All I'm requesting, here is that the improvements that are, like, this isn't after, this isn't just like a site-specific thing that they came up for my property. It's a general plan for the neighborhood. And that's, really all that I think that needs to be said about it. Like, this isn't me having to put a sidewalk in front of my house because I'm building a business and I need to provide ADA access and, safe access and stuff like that. I'm building a neighborhood scheme here that, goes to whatever the city is trying to do with the neighborhood. And, I think that, just the fact that, I'm willing to kind of like go along with it is, enough evidence that I'm trying to, I'm not trying to be like shady here. So.
Like, you want to direct the board back to the actual impact fee statute. I think what I'm hearing is he feels like he's done more for the property than maybe he needed to. So he wants to credit the impact fee, but that is not necessarily what the statute allows. So I'm going to focus back on the impact fee. The impact fee is tied directly to the zone improvement plan. And that's what those impact fees are for, using the generation, the trip generation, and the different calculations there. So I I guess as the board's legal advisor, I want to make sure that you direct back to the impact fee, not trying to wheel and deal where maybe he should get a credit for something that's not tied to the impact fee in the zone improvement plan.
That's what I was trying to understand, because as far as the straight impact fee calculation, or another, I think other example, the miscalculation or the
Arguing number
use-
of trips.
the use was incorrectly selected and
Right.
we, or there was actual counts that were brought in, or some other calculation to the impact fee itself that's been in question, and I don't have a problem with that.
Or if there's a situation where he was doing some kind of improvement that it essentially was him paying twice into the impact fee. So it was a improvement that was included in the zone improvement plan that he dedicated and then also paid the impact fee. That would be entitled to a
That's not the
credit,
case here.
but that is not the case here. Yeah. Or if it's something above and beyond the development standard, and that language is all in 36-7-4-1335.
And you're referring to the state statute, right?
Yes.
And the Fisher statute does refer very generally, albeit though, that any dedication should be considered for credit, correct?
I don't believe so, but we can't trump state law, so.
Yep, I'm just going back to city code, what I think that I've read.
The chair doesn't mind like one course correction just from a staff perspective. Again, I don't know what engineering communicated on this type J versus streetscape, but I did go back and find that we adopted streetscape 5 in June of 2023. So from a planning perspective, that is just streetscape that would have been applied to before any of this. The first application that I have on record outside your demo permit was the ILP submission, I think in April 24. So again, just to make sure that we have that.
Go back at that one more time, because.
So the
No,
nickel plate code was.
I'm saying I'm gonna go back at that one more time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because I think that where the board is getting hung up here a little bit is that either way, on my side of the street, it's gonna be 15 feet, right? And whether that means that there's 5 feet added for a bike lane, 6 feet or 5 feet added for a planting strip and 6 feet for a sidewalk, or it's no bike lane, the 4 feet and the 9 feet, right? I'm still, like, over here on this portion of land, I'm still doing more, like, the school doesn't need a 9-foot sidewalk in order to get kids to school. And my restaurant doesn't need a 9-foot sidewalk in order to get people into the building or to accurately handle or appropriately handle any crowds or anything that's out there in front of the building. I believe that what I'm saying here is that expansion of the sidewalk to 9 feet in, requiring so much, that's cost. It's not just grass that I'm putting in, right? So it's beyond what would have been required.
That is the requirement we're looking at right now.
Yes, and the only reason I wanted to say anything was I didn't want it to sound like we changed the streetscape in the middle of this development process. What was communicated from engineering may have been one thing, but this was what the streetscape was. And I had a difference of opinion whether it is.
Well, I can provide the emails. Yeah, it's fine.
That's fine. I'm just saying if the developer thinks the sidewalk is bigger than it needs to be, that is just a matter of opinion between the developer and the city. So this is what we've agreed on for this area.
Well, it looks like under TAC review.
It's not really a matter of opinion, though. I mean, like, what we're here for is the impact fee review, right? And what I'm talking about is, I'm not talking about the sidewalk. I'm talking about the impact fee. And what credits are supposed to do on the impact fee is you're supposed to look at the overall offset that development pays for development is the theme of impact fees, which they've been around since it's been a long time since law school, but I think impact fees started in the Illinois suburb, somewhere probably near Hinsdale. slowly bled into Indiana, but I am paying, my point here is that I'm paying a lot towards city development in this area. I'm asking that that be considered when you look at these credits. It's not, I respectfully disagree with Lindsay that you are limited to the zone improvement plan, because those exact words don't come out of the Indiana state statute. It's more of a suggestion to look at that, but to also take things in holistically about the public improvement. And I know that Lindsay's I know the words that she can pull out right now, direct wording from the statute. But I would just call it a difference of opinion.
Aren't suggestions, these are the parameters of when a credit should be given, and it does.
Anything else to add?
No, I've got nothing else to add. I'm just trying to clear up any questions you guys have. So I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
You're good. Do you make a motion? No, or do you want to discuss?
I think, do we make a decision tonight or do we?
You can, you have 30 days to issue findings of fact, so if you're not ready to make a decision tonight, you don't necessarily have to, you just have to issue the findings of fact within 30 days.
What would we do in the next 30 days that would produce a different finding, I guess?
Yeah, you would just let Ross know, and then the city would prepare the findings of fact for you to review and approve. And then we would send it out to both parties.
Can they direct staff to provide more information or research or something? Because you can't meet.
That's what I'm getting at. It's
To
not a
discuss
public
anything.
forum. There's no more public. If we say 30 days, there's no more discussion. There could be questions asked, but then how do we I'm used to us making a motion now that we all are saying, how would a motion or a finding of fact be delivered if not in a situation like this?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in situations where both parties submit a finding of fact, and then you decide which one you would rather sign off on, but it is difficult to do that without having another meeting.
I was gonna say. Are you prepared to make a motion? Our options are to make a motion or to, if we're waiting for 30 days, ask for a finding of fact,
You can, but again, to, I guess, come together and decide which one you would want to approve. And then,
Yeah,
we're gonna be-
Yeah, I was gonna say.
that's fine.
That's
That's
probably
probably asking
easier.
about the 30-day procedure situation, because I don't think we've ever used that before, how that looked, because this is the public forum. Remember from days, like 20 years ago when I first started this, there was a different way, but it's been solidified and
Yeah, it just says
set by law.
30 days. Let's see if I can find the actual language, but essentially it's 30 days to produce the finding of fact from the hearing.
Discussion amongst ourselves.
This is the discussion. I mean,
Yeah.
amongst ourselves
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can talk about it openly.
Actually, I'm going to correct myself. There is language on this. The board shall decide the matter that the board is required to hear at the hearing at which the matter is first presented, or at the conclusion of the hearing on the matter if the matter is continued.
So it's here.
So, yeah, it would be here.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
I apologize.
It's okay. I knew there was 30
We don't do
days.
these very often,
So
so.
30 days for something else. I know. there's
Yeah,
some-
it is 30 days to actually issue the finding of fact, because then
Yeah.
Mr. Wojak would have appeal rights on that finding of fact.
Yeah. Okay. So we discussed it.
Yeah. I appreciate where Mr. Wajak's coming from. At the same time, I feel that every developer has requirements, whether it's this project or any other project, to put in infrastructure. And I haven't seen anything that would provide me with a specific dollar amount on adjusting anything, because, you know, there was no discussion regarding EDU changes or road impact, you know, traffic count, et cetera. So from my perspective, I don't see anything to change the fees.
When I look at what I reviewed as far as the calculation and the impact fee, I didn't see anything incorrect in there either. And the permit was issued per the requirements for the building permit for all the things that the developer has to provide to meet the, I guess, building, I don't say ordinances, I don't want to use those words because I'm not as versed in those.
Anything to me that makes it a credit worthy. Where you're incurring the fees to fall in line, and that doesn't matter where you put it, you're gonna run into those. It's just the plate might have these as opposed to something else. I don't see anything that makes me think it needs adjusted or credited.
Any further discussion? Do we want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All those in favor of denying the appeal?
Okay, do you have that on record?
I do.
Board, I have no additional items. I ask for the meeting to be adjourned.